Dear Grownups, let's talk about circle time and why those kids are not sitting still or not staying at the carpet. What is happening? Today we're going to answer a listener's question just about circle time. The listener writes, Dear Jessica, I'm a preschool teacher and I struggle with getting kids to sit still at circle time. Some don't even stay during circle time. They're wiggling, rolling around, touching each other, and just not paying attention. I feel like I'm constantly redirecting them. What can I do? Circle time can be magical, but it can also lead to the things that you just spoke about. If you've ever led a group of little children in a group activity, you know what this feels like. Why won't they just sit still? You are not alone. So today we're going to dive into why sitting still is hard for kids and what you can do about it to make circle time more engaging and less frustrating for everyone. So let's talk about the why. The truth is, young children are not made to sit still. If you listen to our other episode about jumping on furniture and climbing on bookshelves, you'll know one of the reasons why children do that is because they need to move. Same thing is kind of happening here. For some children, moving is their way to stay engaged. Do you sit perfectly still during your meetings? Do you sit perfectly still when you're watching television? I doubt it. I bet you're tapping your foot, clicking a pen, moving around. You're probably moving. My goodness, we have treadmills now for this. Have you seen these walking treadmills and treadmill desks? So we know that we need movement to stay engaged. Some children may struggle with sensory regulation, so they need extra help to get their body regulated in order to take in the stimuli of what's happening at circle time. And some children just have a lot of energy because they're young children. And let's be honest, the truth hurts, but sometimes circle time is boring for them. I've been to a lot of circle times in my lifetime. Some guys, I don't want to sit through. So I know why those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds don't want to sit through them either. So instead of trying to fight the wiggles and trying to fight the kid that's escaping circle time, let's figure out some strategies that could work for you. Number 1, keep it short and active. First, think about what are you going to be doing at circle time, and does this really need to be circle time? Is this group time worthy? So we know that we're not going to have very much time. Children's attention spans are very short. So what I want to do at group meeting time, is it worthy of that short attention span? Is this the most bang for our buck? So if you've got a room full of 3-year-olds, having them sit for 15 minutes is just not realistic. Let me read you some statistics that I just found on the good old internet. They are from reliable sources though, so just keep that in mind. For an adult, the average attention span in the year 2000 was 12 seconds for an adult. That's when before our brains shut off and we started paying attention to something else. You may have already done that. Hopefully you're not. Hopefully you're totally engaged to this video. But we are in a culture where we want stimuli happening all of the time. Now they looked at that attention span again in 2015. So I haven't found any more recent stats. I'm sure they're out there. If you find them, let me know. But in 2015, an adult attention dropped from 12 seconds to 8.25 seconds. Guys, a goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds. So officially, adults have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. Kind of the rule of thumb when we talk about young children is that they can spend 2 minutes times their age in any kind of given activity. So if you have a 2-year-old, expect them to attend to a task for 4 minutes. 3-year-old would be 6 minutes, 4-year-old, 8 minutes. You get it, you can do math. But say we have 5-year-olds, 10 minutes. So the max time a circle time should be is 10 minutes long. I've been at circle times that are much, much longer, and we wonder why the kids are moving around. What we also know about attention span is that repetitive or monotonous tasks can lead to shorter attention spans. So if you're spending your circle time doing things like calendar, womp womp, that is boring, that is monotonous, and that is repetitive from day to day. You're probably spending 10 of those minutes doing something repetitive and monotonous. That's not fostering a stronger attention span. It's not Contrary to popular belief, it is not getting them ready for kindergarten to make them suffer through that. Check out my video on calendar later. The statistics also tell us that use of visual aids and storytelling techniques can increase your attention span. So that applies to circle time as well. The human brain is wired to pay attention to things that are novel. And that's kind of a survival instinct. If something's new to us, we pay attention to it. Kind of like if there was a new predator, we would pay attention to the new predator because we need to make sure that we're safe. We don't want children to feel like they're in harm's way during circle time, but if it is new, it is going to kick our brain into engagement. Attention span can be influenced by things like hunger, fatigue, thirst. So that's that Maslow's hierarchy. If our bottom needs are not met, our attention span is going to suffer and we're not going to be able to make it through circle time. So we have to make sure children are fed, they're not thirsty, they're well rested, all of their basic needs are being met. We also know that excessive exposure to screens and media lessens our attention span. And my goodness, we know that screen time is a factor. We just know it. So what can you do instead? Number one, like I said, is it really worthy? Is what I want to do at circle time worthy of this short amount of time that I have their attention? Number two, use movement to your advantage. So start with a wiggly song. Start with, back when I was a teacher, we did tootie taw. So that was a lot of big body movements. Have a song to start circle time. That will get their bodies regulated. And then you can go into your story or whatever you have planned for circle time. Let children stand, let them sway, let them rock instead of forcing them to sit still. When we do this whole crisscross applesauce thing, we're telling them to ignore their body's cues, and we're telling them that the only way to participate in circle time is to sit crisscross applesauce. You want to know something? I think you should sit crisscross applesauce and make it through the rest of this video and see how you feel. Because what happens when we tell children to sit crisscross applesauce, they start to pay attention to things like, oh my goodness, my knees are touching, my pants aren't going down to my ankles, my knees are bumping into my friend, this is really uncomfortable, maybe I don't have the core strength to sit this way. What's the big deal? What's the big deal if a child lays on their belly? What's the big deal if they lay on their side? What's the big deal if they sit with their legs stretched out? Maybe they're gonna bump into somebody else. Teach them how to problem solve those issues. Hey, if you want to sit like that, where do you think you should go on the carpet so that way you're not bumping into Susie? Where do you think you should go so that way your knees aren't bumping into Johnny? Figuring those kinds of things out, letting them be some problem solvers. Hey, we're solving more problems than just circle time in this episode. Okay, so number 3 is give kids a spot. Give them markers, visual boundaries of where their body can be. If that is one of the reasons why you see children not engaging in circle time, because there's a lot of bumping and jostling, figure out, can you masking tape little boxes for them to maybe stay in so that way it gives them a visual idea of where their body needs to stay. You're not saying sit crisscross applesauce in this box, but you are saying keep all of your body parts in here so you're not bothering Susie beside you. Could you have them sit on a little tiny rug or a little pillow, or maybe they actually bring a classroom chair with them. Maybe sitting in a classroom chair is much more comfortable for them than sitting on the floor. And instead of just sitting in a spot, let them walk around the back of the classroom. You'd be surprised at how much a child is getting from your circle time as they move and walk through the classroom. Know that not every child needs to sit. That's a big one, and this is a hard one for us to kind of be okay with. But even if a child's not sitting still, they're really receiving that information. As long as they're engaged and they're not disrupting others, what's the big deal? I'm gonna ask you that a lot. What's the big deal? What's the big deal if they lay? What's the big deal if they swing their legs? What's the big deal if they walk along the perimeter of the carpet, as long as they are not disrupting others or hurting others? You can come up with some routines and regulations as far as, all right, if you don't want to come to carpet, that's fine, but you have to do a quiet activity and you have to stay in this part of the classroom. That's fine. If they're not coming to carpet, and maybe you're afraid, maybe you're thinking, no one will come to carpet then. If I don't make them sit still and crisscross applesauce on their spot, no one's going to come to carpet time. maybe you need to do an audit of why. Why is your carpet time not well attended? Is it boring? Are you using things like puppets? Are you using visuals? Are you using song? Are you incorporating choice into the circle time? Why don't they want to come? Because it's probably more of a reflection on you than a reflection on their ability to sit crisscross applesauce. If you give them the choice on whether or not to come, you better make it really fun and exciting for them. The next suggestion is to make it engaging and interactive. And the way you can do that is just like I said, use some visuals, use puppets, do something different than you did the day before. Incorporate children's choice. How can they be involved? So don't think so much about this is the circle time that I'm delivering to them. It's not my show. If it's actually an engagement and they are participating and they're not being passive consumers of circle time, that means maybe you're creating a chart of things that maybe you're going to read a story about zoo animals. So you ask everybody their favorite zoo animal and you write it on a chart. Maybe you ask them to vote on which song you're going to sing for circle time. Maybe you already have the song queued up and that's already chosen, but maybe they can decide if they want to sing it slow or sing it fast. Do you want to sing it in a funny voice or do you want to sing it in a quiet voice? Figuring those kinds of choices that really make no difference which one they choose. They're still doing the activity, but they have some say in it. They have some autonomy, and that will create some more buy-in to circle time. Think about some of those sensory systems. So go sit on your carpet, sit like a child would sit there. What types of sensory experiences are you having sitting there? Is the carpet scratchy? Does it have a smell? Can you see the teacher? Should the teacher sit in a chair or should the teacher sit on the carpet with them? Are there things for them to hold and touch while you're doing your circle time experience? If you're reading a story, can you pass something around for them to see? What types of questions are you asking as you're reading? Are you fun to listen to? I tell my students before they do story time or story read alouds at circle time, practice reading in front of a mirror. Record yourself reading. As you read, if you know you want to ask a question on a certain page, put a Post-it on that page so that way you remind yourself to ask class that question as you're reading. You remind yourself to have the children make a prediction about what's going to happen to the character next. But plan those things. With a few simple tweaks, you can make circle time work in your classroom. Remember to keep it short, keep it engaging, and don't stress about perfection. Every day will be different. You may have different children choosing to sit with you at circle time than they did the last time, and that's okay. And if today's episode was helpful, share it with a friend or leave a review. It helps more grown-ups find the support they need.